Welcome to Legumes in Space.
Hi, I'm Lisa Turney, and I'm a meteorologist, and I want to talk to you about the weather. The weather is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365, and a fourth days a year. It's always happening. It's never a break from it. Even when you kind of think it's a break because beautiful sunshine outside, well, that's still weather happening. And weather can affect your daily lives. We all know that. Heck, right now while I'm recording this, we're in the coldest outbreak of air we've had in a very long time. We broke records, like we're in the minuses for our lows, and our temperatures are barely even making it to single digits. It's craziness. So weather is very impactful. And I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but it's really impactful when you're talking about space exploration. Not necessarily while they're up in space, but when they're down here on Earth getting ready to leave the Earth on a rocket, the weather makes a huge impact of whether that rocket launch can take place or not. Now the upcoming launch that we're talking about is the NG-15. It's a Cygnus rocket taken off from Wallops facility in Wallops Island, Virginia. And that one is what they call an instantaneous launch. So it either launches at its scheduled time or it doesn't and it faces a delay. So it's either go or no go. There's no in between on these types of launches. So the weather has to be fitting the right criteria at that moment and also along its path, or that launch doesn't take place. And so you might be thinking, well, what kind of weather criteria might that be that would affect a launch? I mean, obviously everyone's thinking if it's raining, if it's thunderstorming, or it's snowing or icing. Well, that makes sense, but did you know that there's other criteria that can really affect it too? Stuff that you might not think is as big a deal, and it could be as simple as the clouds are too low, or the clouds that are present have too much vertical development. That can make a big difference as well. So the weather can also mess up launches. Now the Cygnus rocket that's going up aboard an Antares rocket coming up on February 20th, that one is carrying 8,000 pounds of resupplies to the International Space Station and lots of research projects. One of those is our Exo Lab 8, which we're all excited for it to be aboard. So we'll be watching that. Let's go over a little bit more of the specifics of the criteria that could make a launch be a go or a no-go. When you think about the weather and what might interfere with a launch, you might consider the winds above the Earth's surface. It's ones that we can't necessarily feel right here, but can be transferred down to us at any point in time. And those kind of winds are important because if you've got wind shear, which is winds coming at either different directions as you go up in height, or maybe it's speed shear, so the winds increase more dramatically than they would normally increase as you go up, that can affect the rocket's path. And so we want to be very mindful of those. What I like to look at is what they call either thermodynamic diagrams or Stuvie diagrams. And those will show you a record of what's going on as you go up in the atmosphere. It does temperature and it does dew point, and it also does those wind speed and direction. That way we can kind of get an idea of what's happening above us. Those are taken from weather balloons that are launched typically twice a day, sometimes more than that depending on if there's something special happening. But it's generally twice a day, 0Z, and then again at 12Z. And those are launched, they're called radiosondes, and they take the temperature and the dew point and the wind speed and direction as it goes up until the balloon ends up popping and the unit will come back down to the ground. And that's how they get their information of the upper atmosphere. Let's take a look at a forecasted model to see what may happen for our launch on February 20th. This is thanks to pivotalweather.com. We're looking at the mean sea level pressure and wind speeds done in knots for that specific time frame on Saturday, which is at 15Z, which means it's about 10 a.m. at the Wallops facility. Wallops is located right down here, and that's where we're paying attention to. And you can see that there's some higher level winds that are forecasted, again, this is a forecast, to be near the facility. And if you go back to our launch criteria, you know that we need to have winds at the launch pad less than 38 miles per hour. So that's why winds are a concern right now. We've got a low pressure that's sitting well off the coast, but still affecting the coastline. We also have this high pressure in Kentucky, and that it's where it's going to be at that forecasted time, having these two stronger pressure systems nearby increases the winds in between them, which is why there's a concern. Also, when you're on the edges of high pressures, which where wallops will be on the edges of it, along with the edge of the other low pressure system, we could have some clouds around, especially as you get later in the morning towards the afternoon. And depending on how thick those clouds, if they go up into the freezing temperatures, or if their cloud where the ceiling height is too low to the ground, there can be some concerns with that. So that's why they're watching clouds and the winds for the two main concerns for our launch. Right now it's set at 75% as a go for launch. So with fingers crossed and a little bit of good luck in the weather department, we'll have our NG-15 mission off to the International Space Station and our ExoLab 8 on its way to the International Space Station, with hopes of seeing some nodulation.